Okay, so I'm going to call this video, What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up, or What Is Your Destiny? And the reason I'm doing this video is to help people understand, or to take a holistic framework about their life, put it together, and help audit to determine, are you doing the best thing that you should be doing? Are you happy with what you're doing? And if done right, this will be very helpful. It's helped me quite considerably. If you get this wrong, you can end up wasting a lot of time in life trying to get things working for you, or you're working against kind of natural rhythms that have been built up over time. So let's get into this, and what we're going to do is we're going to put this together like a puzzle. So if I draw on the board here, we'll make up what looks like a little puzzle, okay? And in the puzzle are the pieces, so the pieces are going to link together. Okay, so what we'll do is we will look at this as kind of a four-step process. So if you want to advance through this, I'll put the annotations in the comments below so you can skip to the specific sections, kind of like a table of contents. So let's start with the first quadrant here, number one. So with number one, what we're looking at is, if you look back in time when you were growing up, what was your environment? What were the people in the environment? What were you surrounded by? Or let's say, what did your parents do? And with what your parents did, also look at what were the things that you interacted with. I'll call that interactions. So my example, what did my parents do? Well, my mom went to the library a lot, so I was brought along to the library, and that's helped me get into books, get into knowledge, get into learning. My dad was more of a tinkerer. He had electronics and vacuum tubes and put together transistor radios and things like that. So he had a workshop down in the house, and I would play in the workshop as well. And that would lead me to tinkering and working on items that not a lot of people had access to. So I got very good at trying to piece together and gain some analytical ability. Also, I like playing with construction toys a lot, so that helped with the ability to assemble and put small pieces together into something larger. So take a look, what did your parents do? So that's the environment that you grew up in, and things that you interacted with in that environment. So moving on to the second piece here, what have you been doing in the last 10 years? And this is more geared towards industry. There's been some documentation saying you take a look at what you've been doing in the last 10 years, and if you've been consistent on a certain thing, then you get good at that thing, and that's what they call like the 10,000 hour rule of working on something and gaining a proficiency with that. If you've been jumping between different things in the last 10 years, different industries like transportation industry, then moving into communications industry, then maybe doing something like cooking, then that starts to break the focus. You don't get a chance to really ramp up on the key points that make you a specialist. It does turn more into a generalist type knowledge, which can work for consulting, but then that means that you really want to be a consultant for that. So looking at number two, last 10 years. My myself, I've been doing software the last 10 years, more on the business analysis side, doing business architecture, business analysis, requirements work. So also education and teaching people as well. So I do got a couple of tangents or paths there. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 is, well, what do people say about you? If they were to give you feedback and to say, oh, Andrew, you explain things very well, or oh, Andrew, you're very good at weaving together high level or little pieces and then bringing it together into a larger framework, then that feedback is important to track. So I'll see for number 3. So what do others say about you? So again, personalities or specific skill set that you have. If you're a championship snowboarder and people say, wow, you can freestyle, your jumps are good, like everything's just spectacular with that. If you're into cooking and somebody says, well, you're just the stuff that you make is absolutely fabulous, some of the best stuff we've had, then that is a puzzle piece to put into the overall framework. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is, what do you like to do when you're just out socializing with your friends, kind of hanging out? What is it that you talk about? Okay, so it's, we'll call it the hangout. So hangout discussion. Okay, hangout discussion. So example, if you talk about wine when you hang out, so every time you go with your friends you're talking about wine, different types that you've had, then that fits in with one of these puzzle pieces. Maybe you want to talk about TV that or new shows that have come up, or you like talking about Nature and Discovery Channel, or you talk about knitting. You get together with a bunch of people and discuss knitting. That then goes into the framework. Last piece, number 5, if we were to tie all this together, is probably around when you're 13, 14, or 15, you get an idea of really what it is that you want. You kind of have this destiny thing form. And for me, it was physics back a long time ago. And I could see where that's led me into, if I were to assemble my pieces together, working with building blocks. And then people in the last 10 years, so when you go back to when you're a kid, in the last 10 years I was studying a lot of books. A lot of those were on science, like atomic theory, up until I was 14, and my friends would talk about this, oh, you're always into the science and things like that. Yeah, that was an interest that I took on. And then merging that with what do others say about me, well, I always had them say, okay, well, you're like mad scientist. You got my stuff all around. I'm tinkering and playing with things, which goes back to my number 1, because that's what, in my childhood, what I grew up with. So you have to take all of these together and weave them into some sort of mission statement for yourself. And for me, what I like to do is I like to help others discover new things, or help others discover new talent. And on the business side is help business people form their big picture and move on with the business. With that is forming the big pictures and then distilling out the execution paths to get to their objectives. So those are a couple of things that I do. What I'd ask as your takeaway for this is look at what you do in your life, put together your destiny pattern, and if it fits with what you're doing, most likely you'll enjoy what you're doing. If these patterns do not fit with what you're currently doing, then you're probably going to feel some sort of stress or frustration. What it comes to is taking these patterns and then can you change what you're doing to become happy? That maybe is looking at the last 10 years and then rewriting that going forward for your next 10 years to make it match in here, and then that will lead to a more sufficient, happier lifestyle. So there's the destiny in a nutshell. Please leave your comments below, have a discussion with others about this, and if there's any questions, raise them in the comments. And if there's enough material there, I can run another session, do another video, and address some of those comments.